was going to request that Ian, if you don't mind, kind of revisiting some of what you were talking about for Jim,
okay.
Gary, and HJ.
Yeah, so here I'll repost in the chat for HJ. Okay, so Co-op has posted the final RHOC balances in the RChain repo. And so this is the final RHOC balances at the block height 9371743, where Greg declared the snapshot. And a note that the RHOC balances there may not reflect exactly the REV balances that you'll see in the Genesis block because of a couple board resolutions. And then I've also posted the policy that was passed in the board meeting yesterday that outlines how to account for the fraudulent RHOC transactions that the board wishes to invalidate. So there's a bit of work to do right now to create some code applying this policy and calculating the final REV balances. But we've got all the inputs, the addresses that are to be invalidated by board resolution are the Barcelona RHOC theft. That occurred Ethereum block, what was it, 7598593, and so we know that address, and also the address of a Pythio wallet back around May 6th of last year. So RHOC in those addresses will be invalidated and will not be reflected in the REV Genesis balances. But not only that, but since these wallets, there was activity where the Barcelona thieves sent RHOC to other addresses, we're building a crawler that will calculate the balances in all descendant wallets based on some ratio of taint. And if you see the GitHub link that's posted there's some explanation how that's calculated. So I just wanted to pass that along, and then there's, if anyone would like to take up and try coding a bit of this themselves as a double check, that would be great. I'll try doing it a bit in a spreadsheet, and I know HJ here has some very good spreadsheet talent that he's displayed before. So if you want a good puzzle,
yeah. What I did was I connected the email addresses of the RAMs to the export of Ian.
Oh, so HJ, if you go by the official snapshot that's posted on GitHub, that is more accurate. The one that I did, the preliminary one, was off by a few RHOC.
Okay. Okay, I will do that. Yeah.
And Dan Connolly ran this, also generated this exact same list of RHOC balances, final RHOC balances. The only difference between his list and the one that's posted now on the RChain GitHub is just that Dan sorted all of the addresses so that the 0 address is up on top. But we checked, and all the balances are the same.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe I'm not going to publish it. The owners connected to the public key.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Not unless they've asked for it to be published. I don't.
But
Some
it's
people might,
it's
they might
amazing
not like
that it's amazing that so all the ROMs, they have not moved their address, or they have not moved their ROCs from this. So like that, I could make a good estimate. Yeah.
Greetings, Tom. So we just went over the RHOC balances. Anything else on that? And I guess you had some things, Steve, you were wanted to discuss.
A couple of things, actually. I'm going to paste something in the chat. So, right, I'm just going to paste it in now. So what I'm pasting in is, so Nobuko Yoshida is you know, one of the very top theoretical computer scientists. And, you know that Greg loves pi calculus and spent a lot of time in that domain. And he's somewhat of an acknowledged fan and expert. And there's a small community of which I'm very honoured to be part. I'm probably the least capable of all of them, but I get to see a lot of things. And Nobuko is an interesting character, Japanese, oddly enough. Strange with that name, isn't it? If she'd been called June, you wouldn't have known. But Nobuko Yoshida is one of the best, and she was recommended to me personally by Robin Milner when he was still alive as probably the best and most accurate of all the theoreticians in that space. So what I've pasted is a conference, a workshop on concurrency and theoretical computing, and the title of the paper by a certain Lucius Gregory Meredith and Mike Stay, that's going through review right now with Nobuko, being put into a position where it's easy for the conference organizers and the people that review papers to say yes to the paper for its inclusion. And this is the paper that Nobuko said to Greg when I was on the call. She said, I've known her for years, so when she says this, she really means it. She said, "This is very original, Greg. Nobody's doing anything like this. Nobody's copying that." And for her, that's quite important. So I just sort of thought I'd let you guys know, because it's a members meeting, that we're really close to getting a paper accepted into a highly reputable workshop around the mathematics behind RChain and the RHOC calculus. So that was item 1. And item 2 is a sort of heads up for the moment. You'll see something more from me over the course of the next 3 or 4 days. I've been working with a startup called Electric Miles. What they do, very in keeping with what our aspirations are, they want to be able to charge electric vehicles, fleets of them ideally, because you get better bang for your buck, but they want to charge them based on the forecast of sustainable energy. So the higher the forecast of sustainable energy, the more likely they'll set the charge point to be on. And when it goes really low, they might turn it off. And they use a whole bunch of information with a bit of ML involved in it to figure out a schedule for an individual, or an individual being a car or the owner of that car. So that if they know that they've got to do 260 miles and the car can do 300, they will sort out the charging overnight or whenever it's plugged in, but based on what you want from a green charge. You get to choose, you get to make a choice as an individual as to how you're going to charge it. So it's not just, okay, you've made the step to take an electric vehicle. Good, excellent, applaud you. But now you could do even more. Not only that, it can decide to overcharge the battery, and then it can sell the excess in the battery on the low voltage energy market. That's the idea. So to sell excess from electric vehicles or anything that has a battery that's being charged. So it can apply not just to vehicles, it can apply to banks of batteries that power a house. And you could sell electricity directly to your neighbor. And so they're looking for funding for this. And lots of people are really interested in the low energy market. It's a new thing because we've never had battery technology at this level before. And there's a lot of work going on in the UK, and I'm sure similar in the US, to create such a market. And Electric Miles is certainly one of the leading players, even though it's not properly funded yet. The guys have all worked in energy trading, and they're desperate for this to work. So they've asked me, would it be possible to put together some sort of proof of concept, not for the smart charging, but for the energy market on a blockchain? Now, when you think about the rollout of electric vehicles and the likelihood of wanting to trade energy in a particular area, the closer the area, the better for the low energy voltage exchange. Then you're talking quite a lot of transactions a second when that market starts to really get interesting. And the more we go to battery powered homes, right? So you become more self-sustainable and consume sustainable energy that charges your batteries, but can, from a community perspective, share the energy. The more we can spawn eco villages or eco communities that are willing to share energy. So they're really in line with our aspirations. But the fact that the VCs, the thing that they ask most about is about, tell us more about this blockchain thing that can do this. And I want that blockchain thing to be our chain. So now that we're within days of mainnet, you're on the good side, we're days of mainnet, and tomorrow we leave, the day after tomorrow we leave the EU. So it's kind of a weird world, isn't it? But having said that, so I'm kind of interested in seeing if there's any members in the community that want to help me build a POC. Because if we can get this and they get funding, I don't much care if they own the IP around it at this stage. What I care about is transaction flow. And if we can do a transaction flow or something like that, that potentially could grow quite rapidly, particularly in communities where there is low voltage. So New Zealand would be a great place. Australia is a great place. But equally, the United States is a great place, and the UK is a great place, and I think the whole of Europe. Then, we could potentially corner the market. And what I care about is transaction flow. That's what I care about. I care about having an example that we can point to say, wow, isn't this cool? And then other people want to build dApps in the same way. So that's kind of where I am. So what I intend to do over the next 3 or 4 days is put some user stories, animate some user stories to illustrate the concept. And then I want to share that back to the members community, the membership community, to see what the members say, and who potentially could help and guide. So those were 2 things. There was actually a third thing, and the third thing's really wacky. Maybe I'm barking up the wrong tree, because I do have some concerns about it, but I'm kind of excited as well. So the excitement, and this is like serious excitement for me. So we've been having this dialogue in the UK, in the political circles, about Huawei, as you may have heard, and the 5G, rollout of 5G. And what's been said in the press, on radio and on TV, is there is this concern that somehow the Chinese Huawei kit can have holes in the doors or could be somehow subverted, you know. And I was thinking, well, when you think about, you know, that comes about because your security audits on the software perhaps are invisible, not transparent, and so maybe there is a hole there deliberately. It could come about because there's a hole that's not deliberate, but, you know, software ain't perfect for the most part. But what happens if we could have a platform for the exchange of information, which is what the internet does and what 5G is all about? What happens if we could have a platform that would have to be scalable, but that has the property that the software that executes on the network to control how the network communicates between any two parties is much safer and much more secure because of the underlying mathematics? You see where I'm going with this? So in a sense, RChain as a scalable platform, and scalability is the key, along with the mathematics, potentially offers a route for DevSecOps, as it is called, right? Where you're actually really concerned about how software is updated. Well, we have a record on our blockchain about when those things happen. And so we could write contracts that make that way more secure than Huawei could ever hope to have without us. So what happens if we partnered with Huawei or anyone else for that matter that wants to provide a 5G infrastructure? You know, could RChain be part of that solution for that 5G infrastructure? And that's the question that's in my mind. That's a massive play, right? And it's not a right here and now, but given the talk by politicians and what I know is possible, not necessarily practically, I'm kind of drawn to the idea.
I think this is really exciting. I've been reading articles about that whole concern, and I would say that we would have to also wonder about the whole politics of it. I think that there might be some forces at play that don't want is it Huawei? Huawei.
Yeah.
They don't want them to succeed in the Western world, and so I think I think that we'd be wading into politics pretty quickly. But
and that's
just
why I said "and others," because
let's
say we found some others, that were not in China and were not Huawei, then would they then be able to assert that the reason they should be used is nothing to do with the politics, it's entirely to do with security?
Yeah.
And why is that? ... RChain. Jim, you're a wise man. What do you think? Is this barking up the wrong tree?
Well, I think it's down the road. Clearly, the kind of transparency and tracking of security information is big. I mean, I think that
it's not about security information, though, Jim. So one thing that may not be obvious, I did hear it only today, but when GCHQ were consulted here, which is like your NSA, I guess, in the States, they said that they would never use any Huawei kit for their own private networks, right? So they have their own networks that you can't log into, in which information is exchanged. And in fact, it's exchanged with the United States through a dedicated line, nothing to do with the normal infrastructure. So this is about 5G. and protecting the individual rights of citizens to ensure that their data is not accessed and sniffed in any way that is against their will, and doing that in a way that is provable in some way.
Proven secure. Yeah, we I guess just yesterday or the day before, we dissolved our company, Proven Secure. You know, I mean, certainly that's the challenge, and I think that the approach of Greg and folks in the and the process calculus will give us the trustworthy systems. I'm not sure how that, you know, goes into why politically, you know, if there's going to be backdoors in software, then you have, you know, you can trust it or not based on the certification of its safety that you get. And I guess it, you know, there's also, you know, environmental considerations as well. I mean, if you can have untrusted components in a system that that can trust, and you can show that mathematically. Mark Miller's work shows us how to do that. And it's, you know, it's not our chain per se, but it's you know, certainly a lot of the stuff that we're doing, security stuff we're doing with our chain, is based on Mark Miller's work.
Mm. I mean, it's an intriguing prospect. I don't know where to go with it yet. I'm still sitting on it, but I thought I'd introduce it as a topic because maybe over the coming months, you know, especially when we saw the demo of, you know, the I think it's called DAPI, isn't it? The kind of DNS replacement.
Right.
And that kind of started me thinking about. I remember talking to Darryl about that. Because that kind of intrigued me, because it means that if you actually rolled that out, like globally, I mean, you are essentially replacing a huge legacy infrastructure and making it more suitable for safe, secure communication. Well, if you can do that with something like DAPI, and you can control the compute that goes on at the edge, which you know, 5G will require, then you potentially have an environment in which you can deploy things, new things, that is far safer than anything that exists now. And so when we're sure that actually we could do that in our chain, as opposed to actually doing it, that might be the time to figure out who should we go tell about this. And it could be, you know, competitors to Huawei. It could be forging alliances with everyone from Cisco to Intel, because you want to get to the edge. I mean, we're brilliant for the edge because we're a more sustainable way of doing consensus with Casper. So we're relatively lightweight. And now that you've got things like chips that ARM have just released, which is ML chips, they've released ML chips so that you can do ML processing at the edge. So, you know, the possibility exists to be able to use some of or export some of the functionality of our chain into a 5G network out to the edge to make it that bit more secure, but in a provable way. And that's the narrative I kind of want to explore. I mean, I'll kind of full stop it there from me. I just wanted to introduce the idea. If anyone wants to run with it, I'd be happy to collaborate.
So Liz Mobile just sent me this.
I don't know, starting off here, we're being very unambitious. I guess we're playing with the art on the blockchain. Done some playing with governance. I don't really know what other apps are happening, but I think, you know, we're being start off with a fairly low I guess, low requirements in terms of risk and security, so the environment becomes a little more mature.
Yeah. I mean, if we were going to provide an alternative infrastructure, there is the issue of you still can't lose a message, so you still got to make sure that it's robust enough. And we won't be for a while, not until, I mean, none of this can happen until Venus, because you won't have the behavioral typing actually in on chain. I've answered my own question.
All right.
I see there's lots of members on here, Jim. Now.
Yeah. So Tom, are you new here, or do we know who you are? You have anything to say? Can you you can type in the chat if you can't speak. And we have Harlan Robertson. Hi, Harlan.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Hi, Harlan.
That was Tom, I think.
It's Tom.
It's Tom. Hello, Tom.
I'm not new, but I'm just hanging around, and I want to listen to the hangout.
Okay, listen away. I mean, given that there's a few board members on this, some of you may have questions. It's a members' meeting. It's an opportunity to ask board members things as well. So if any of you do have any questions, if we can answer them between us, I'm sure that we will. I'm really glad when you don't ask me anything, because it's a lot easier for me.
Well, I have a question. How does one do the review? It's in the blog says that you have 4 days to review the balances, and I don't know how to do that.
Daryl, have you got any clarity on that? I haven't done it yet. I mean, I've still got to do it myself. So Harlan, I'm in the same boat as you. So any pearls of wisdom that anyone can offer, I'm listening to.
Well, I suppose you can look at the final snapshot that the co-op posted on the RChain GitHub and compare that to what you think your final RHOC balance should be. So I'd start there. And then after the determination is made about if there's been any taint in your wallet, there's going to be another file which is posted, which will show what your REV balance is going to be at Genesis. And it might be the case that REV balance is lower than the final RHOC balance if any of that tainted RHOC somehow made its way to your wallet. And there's a description of exactly how that calculation and determination is made. So what you can do right now is compare what you think is your balance against the final snapshot, which is posted by the co-op. And
okay, so, and what about, how can I see my REV?
Well, the proposed Genesis balances haven't been posted yet.
I see how you do it. So if I take my wallet address and then search the list, the RChain wallets list, I should see the balance. Is that correct?
Yeah, I just posted again the final RHOC balances at the snapshot height, and so you just dump that into a spreadsheet like a CSV, and just do a search for the Ethereum address where your RHOC balance.
Yeah, I just clicked on the link, just so anyone that wants to know how to do this. I clicked on the link, and up comes this GitHub page, right? And there are these addresses with a comma followed by 2 numbers. And I then just put my wallet address in and search for it, and there's exactly 1 entry, which is good. I'm glad there's only 1 entry. And it's indeed got a number that I recognize.
Yeah, that's all fine, but how do I see my REV? It has a different address.
The REV won't be there until, I guess, the 4th.
Okay.
When it goes to mainnet. But what you should see, because it's a 1-to-1, if you've got no taint, you'll see exactly the same number.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? If there's a taint, and there will only be a taint if you somehow acquired RHOC through people that themselves may have acquired it that was tainted. So if you never did that, so if you just went to the co-op, bought some RHOC, stashed that in your wallet, and it's just it should be exactly the same. You never bought any more. That's generally what you should see when your wallet comes back up with REV in it after the 4th. So I'm expecting my balance to not change because I've just got 1 block and I never did anything with it. I've just left it in my wallet all this time. And that was from the co-op. Does that help? Ian, if somebody has post the 4th, looks at their REV and it's not showing what they expected it to, should they then contact the co-op to ask why doesn't it? And then we can tell them why. Because the only reason would be that it's got some tainted RHOC in it. Yeah,
on the announcement page that talks about the issuance, that's developer RChain Co-op. It directs you to a channel that the co-op has set up to deal with those issues. So that's on the RChain Discord. There's a RHOC to REV channel.
Right, yeah, I've seen that.
So that's RHOC 2 REV. So we've got some community support there for people who are wanting to know more about the issuance.
And on Tuesday mornings at 10 o'clock New York time, I guess that's, we have the wallet beta Zoom room in this same room where people who want help accessing their REV can do so. Now, I guess this coming Tuesday is too soon. It would be after the mainnet release that they could see the REV. They could put their private key in to their wallet and see the REV that they have.
Mm. anything else for any board members that anyone wants to ask?
Can I have a question, please?
Go ahead.
Maybe I missed this, but how can I know if I have tainted a RHOC in my wallet or not?
Well, it depends on. So you'll know that you don't have it if you know the source of where you got the RHOC from. If the RHOC was obtained directly from the co-op, then you can be pretty sure, as I've been pretty sure, that none of my RHOC's tainted because I got a block of RHOC. I've not done anything with it. It's sat in my wallet. I got it from the co-op. So I know for sure that my balance should be identical when we go to mainnet in REV. So you will know where you got your RHOC from. If your RHOC didn't come from the co-op, if you acquired it somehow on an exchange, or you got it from somebody else, there's a chance it's tainted because you won't know where they got it from. If you got it from Pythia or you got it from the Barcelona crew, then, well, that would be weird. But you might have got it from somebody that got some from an exchange when, Pythia may have dumped some, for instance. You might have got some from an exchange without knowing who was selling it. And that might be tainted. But at this stage, we can't tell. If you just have to know who they are. We know the addresses. You can find out, actually, if you go to, I think it might be etherscan.io or something like that, where you can see all the transactions that you've done from your wallets. You can see the addresses it came from, and you can compare those addresses. Ultimately, you basically be doing a crawl. So in the same way that we will have a crawler that determines that, you could do that manually. It will just take a lot of time.
Yeah, well, actually, we can see in here a couple of ways. Let me share my screen. If we have it, if we load our private key into MetaMask, this is the RChain Activist account here. We can copy that to the clipboard, click on it, and we can search for that in the file here of the RHOC. Now, we don't know if this is final. It could be reduced if there's tainted RHOC, which probably isn't. And we can see this is, I guess we have to take off 6. We take off, where's the decimal point go here? Let me look at this again. We have in here, if I click here, I'll see that I have 50,000 RHOC here.
Right, you've actually got your selection exactly right.
Yeah.
It's nano RHOC.
So yeah, the decimal point's between the 8 and the 1.
Right. Okay, and I can also, if I go to Etherscan, you on Etherscan, I can see, on Etherscan, I can search for the account, or I can go to the account, and I can click on ERC20 tokens, and if I remember, I guess this is the right token. It's not showing me here. It's showing me, all 12 tokens. So I click on the RHOC here, and I can see that I have Well, now I went to the RHOC page, but I can see that the RHOC that I have in that account. Okay, and then when I go to the to my Ether wallet, I mean to my RChain wallet, and of course this is on testnet right now. But if I that's interesting. It says 0. I don't know if that's correct. On testnet, I should have more than 0. Oh, but that's one account. So I need to set up an account here. I don't know if we, so basically, now I'll kill this. I'm going to log out here. And then I'm going to restore account from backup and by private key. Okay, and you enter the private key here of your account. And then it'll show, in principle, it'll show your it'll once we're on mainnet, it'll show the it should show the same amount of REV as you had RHOC, and that'll be the amount reflected in the GitHub page that lists all the balances of all the accounts.
Man, I wish there was a video of that. Hey, wait a minute.
We are recording.
Oh, we're not? Yeah, we're recording, right? Yeah, yeah. Cool. I was waiting for you to enter your private key there, Jim. I was like, bated breath.
Yeah.
Oh, Tom said thank you in the chat.
You're welcome, Tom. So we got the community debrief in about 9 minutes.
Any questions or comments? Anything on anybody's mind they want to bring up before we call it a day?
Well, one quick thought is I wonder whether maybe it would behoove us to actually kind of come up with maybe like a RHOC to REV for Dummies page that's really lays it out for the layperson. Do you think that's necessary?
You can always stick that. I mean, it might be a good idea. You might come up with better words. It's probably worth doing. It's where to put it. You just stick it on Discord, or that'd probably be the logical place.
Yeah, I guess like if it's a web page, just send the links to everybody we can.
Or, you know, a blog entry.
Blog entry, yeah. Well, maybe I'll work on that.
So,
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
How long is this utility available? Is it lifetime, or is the number of months or so, or to convert your to enter your private key?
You can do that anytime you want. You can run your own node and do it yourself completely. Okay, yeah. You can do it anytime.
Okay.
This myarchainwallet.com is sort of currently run by Arvin, and it's, you know, it's sort of a new app. It's not perfect. It's missing some features, but it'll be improved, and right now it uses, it's a little bit hard. It mostly runs in the browser, but there's a proxy that goes into RChain, which is eventually going to be removed so that you can run directly in your browser a wallet without having to go to any service. And you could, customize it yourself if you want.
So one last thought, because we're getting close to time, I guess. The next RChain members meeting is on the very day that mainnet goes live. I hope we're having that meeting.
Yeah, I plan to be here.
Good.
I think maybe I should check my schedule and make sure.
I would advertise that. Yeah, I would advertise that. If everybody that can go on Discord and remind people that we're having a members meeting and it's on the day that we go live, I think that would probably be a good thing. I will certainly do it. But good if lots of people do it. It might encourage more members to turn up. It's a big point in the history of RChain.
We could offer free champagne.
Yeah, bring your own. Yeah, I know you're free champagne. You will have the bottle, Daryl, and you will be in your home, and we can watch you drink it for free.
Yeah, at 10 a.m. Good times.
Absolutely.
Steve, I hope you don't mind that I've been referring to you as the notorious SRT with my RChain peers.
No, I don't mind at all.
It's completely complimentary.
Well, I like to be notorious.
Hi, Raphael. You joined late. We're all about to go over to the debrief. How are you today?
Hi, I'm fine, thanks.
Did you have a question for the board members here or anything?
Nope, I was just wondering if it is finished or if it will start in 5 minutes.
The community call, yeah, that's in 5 minutes.
Great.
Yeah, I'm going to dial off for now for 5 minutes, and then I'll be back on.
Thanks,
Nice.
Steve.
Cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
All right.
See you next week. See you next week.
Woo!
Bye, guys.